Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our study session of February 20th. It's nice that everybody's able to visit this morning before we start. Beautiful morning in Mesa. This morning, for roll call, we've got Councilmember Duff and Councilmember Goforth unable to attend, and they are excused. And we have Councilmember Adams via online with Zoom, and all other council members are present. Thank you for being here. And we'll get down to business and start with the first item. Item 1 is review the agenda for Monday, February 24th. Council, Mr. Summers, Vice Mayor.
Question on item 3A, which is it's actually in District 5, multi-use path. So according to the documents we have, it says that 94.3% is part of a reimbursement by a federal highway grant. So is that going to be a categorical grant or is that a block grant? And what's the contingency, given what's happening with grants right now and the federal budget, if that's if there's a clawback of that money?
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Eric Aaron for the Transportation Department. It's a great question. We had the same question, obviously, and
it's a good weekend.
Yeah, so this federal grant is a transportation alternatives grant that came down through MAG. It's federal funding that's passed through MAG. So I reached out to MAG last week, and they are very confident that this money is there. The project's been authorized already through ADOT and that federal process. So we believe that the money is there. If something happens over the next couple months that all of a sudden this money gets rescinded, we'll have to revisit that.
Okay. Is it part of the contract that we would, if that money is clawed back, that we would stop the project at that point, or are we going to have to plow through with it?
Vice Mayor Summers, Mayor Freeman, within our standard contracts and language, and I'll look at Jim and he can correct me if I'm wrong, we always have the right to terminate for cause. We don't have anything in there specific to the grant, but we do have the right to terminate for cause in our contracts.
Okay, and that would be cause?
That would be
and
cause.
Jim is saying that would be
right,
cause.
but, and Mayor and Council, we believe though that what our understanding is this money has already been dispersed. So it's not waiting for a federal, that it's not in Washington, D.C., it's here locally. The money's already been dispersed. So now we're just drawing it down.
Excellent. Okay, that's the question I
That
have. So
helps.
it sounds like we're safe moving forward because
It's not,
all
there
been
are
expended.
other grants we'll talk about in the future where
Yep.
we would be concerned if we spent the money and then we have to get reimbursement, that those funds could be
Yeah, I saw
not
those.
available.
I saw those yesterday in a meeting. That was my concern. I feel pretty good about that where it's in the contract. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
That's it on that, sir.
Anyone else? Before you leave, maybe Beth about the 3B, the police headquarters, that's coming up, and maybe we can talk about that if that's in your purview.
Yeah. Candace, do you want to?
Just give us an overview.
Candace join me here. Yes,
so-
I believe on Thursday morning we had a conversation regarding the project. We're getting ready to proceed with construction. This contract is to award the project and start construction with Wilming Construction as the contractor. I think we went through quite a bit of detail on Thursday. It is a 22-month-long project, which we'll be starting here in the next couple of months as we get contracts processed and moving forward. PD's in the process of moving and relocating some of their staff so we can get the building open for construction right now.
Where's their staff going to move to?
all over.
All over.
Just going to spread it out.
Well, we have to, right? We have to have a
Yes, we
place
do.
for PD records. They'll go over to
59
Hibbert
South
Street.
Hibbert.
And we've got, you know, we will
We're
have
using
the
the
opening
first-
of the
yeah.
Northeast Public Safety Center, and then we'll have some of that, hold some of the holding facility.
And then
There-
the first floor of the Mesa Center for Higher Education will hold the executive staff and financial and HR, their hiring unit.
Okay.
And Mayor and Council, one of the things, I know it's easy, it's right to say PD headquarters, but I want to make sure we're also saying the holding facilities, right? Because we really included that, and that's why this cost is, you know, from the very beginning of time we started talking about this, we've been able to, as a result of kind of evaluating all the systems and everything that need to be done on that campus, we've now included those holding facilities. And that's a key element. I mean, it may not be something that we spend time talking about, but it is a critical component of the services and the what is necessary to support our law enforcement. So I think that when we talk about this, let's always remember we're including that. That's going to be a big step for the city of Mesa, because not only does it renovate and bring up to standard the holding facilities that we have today, but it provides an opportunity, Candace, right, for future expansion, almost doubling.
It does. So the project, Mayor and Council, the project will include roughing in a section that would increase the capacity for the holding facility, that we can come back later very easily to finish that out. And at that point would double the capacity that we have there.
Good, good.
And just, Mayor, just a reminder, this is an over 50-year-old building that hasn't been renovated in some time. It's well overdue, and I think everybody's looking forward to getting a modern policing facility that's open to the community.
There's nothing wrong with being over 50.
I hear you. Me too.
I know my time with fire, we responded many times to the holding facility, and even then, back years ago, it was pretty old and antiquated, so it's time for an uplift for it. And that makes it safer just for the employees, but also those who there
Yes.
temporarily. So appreciate that. All right.
Mayor,
Yes, sir. Mr. Adams.
just for clarity, so this is the formal action on the presentation the chiefs made a week or so ago, is that correct?
Yes.
No changes, it's basically just up for vote now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Council? Ms. Pillsbury, anything? Okay. Maybe we're done with this part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to another agenda item. Ms. Pillsbury?
I'm just curious on 3K, the aircraft rescue vehicle, it looks like it's a replacement for Falcon Field. So I'm just wondering if we have one out at Gateway too, I'm assuming?
Yes, both of our airports have these ARF trucks, as they refer to them. Aircraft.
They're called what?
ARF is the abbreviation.
ARF, oh.
So if you went out and said aircraft rescue and fire, they'd look at you like, what are you talking about? So if you say ARF, they'll know what you're talking about.
Scott probably has a lot of familiarity.
I'm biting my tongue right now.
Yeah,
So we have one both at Falcon Field and one at Gateway.
that's just standard for.
And we
any
standard,
airport.
well, it's interesting, it's not necessarily required at Falcon Field, but we choose to provide that higher level of service. It is required out at Gateway because of the types of the passenger services that are provided out there.
And how often are they replaced? Like, is this something?
That's a
that-
good question. I don't know what frequency of how often we replace an ARF trucks.
Oh, we have our fire chief here.
Yeah,
and-
they just-
And Corinne.
I don't know.
20 years is kind of the standard, but.
Good morning, Mayor
Curious,
Freeman,
This is something that
Councilman.
hasn't run across me.
Yeah, right,
time,
yeah.
so.
Right. Councilmember Spilsbury, this truck has been in service for 15 years, and that is an extended period of time for an ARF truck generally. Our frontline apparatus are 15 years frontline and then 5 years reserve. This truck, it's a little few years past what we would have replaced it, so we have it frontline 15 years.
And do you know how old the one at Gateway is?
It's fairly recent. I think we replaced that one in the last
Gateway. the
7 or
Gateway-
8 years, I want to say, yeah.
I'm going to chime in just because I have some experience. I think are the ones at Gateway, they're subsidized by the FAA, I believe.
Correct.
And paid for by the airport?
That's correct.
Right. This one's being paid for by the city because it's a city
And
facility.
it's not a, Index C airport, it's a general aviation, and I'll let Corinne.
Yes, Mayor and council members, as City Manager Brady stated, the ARF is not required at Falcon Field because we are not a commercial service airport, but because of the amount of operations that we have and the importance of providing safety there for those in the event of an emergency, the decision was made by the city many years ago to actually provide those services at Falcon Field as well.
I think it's probably good we've had that, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
very good.
Okay, great, thanks, I just wanted a little more detail on that.
Thank you.
The truck's going to be red, right?
Does it come in any other color?
So I had a continuing question on that. That's not for the chief, but the sales tax collected said Phoenix sales tax on the line item. Does Phoenix collect the sales tax, or does
If it's a point in sale, if that's where it was sold from, then they would, yeah.
Okay, because that's
We
what
try
it's-
to do, on the rest of our fleet, you'll notice that when we try to procure other vehicles, we use in our selection or decision about evaluating bids, we do include the sales tax as part of that. So if it's a local vendor, then they get credit for the sales tax. So that's probably just part of that template. And because if there were an option in Mesa, then the bid for that would get the credit of the sales tax paid to the city, but apparently probably just didn't have one.
Yeah, it's $270,000.
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll send a thank you note to, or a welcome note, your welcome note to Phoenix for the sales tax.
okay, thank you. Anything else, council? Mr. Adams?
No, I have no questions.
I have one more.
I have one.
Vice Mayor?
I just want to, so I'm going to assume that's an L, 3L. We were bidding, so this is a one-year term contract, 4-year renewal options, industrial building, plumbing, electrical, HVAC equipment. And I'll direct this to Mr. Brady and Mike Kennington, who's out there. I think if you look at page 2, you did a bid, this was fantastic, and then what I want to draw attention to is I noticed that the bid that was received for certain items for HVAC equipment was more expensive than an existing contract. So you're going with the existing contract because you can procure those items at a lower price than if you would have awarded this contract. And I think that's just really good work by your staff to say that, hey, this bid is higher than what we can procure it for under the current contract, and staying with that rather than just awarding this contract and paying more money.
Right.
So I think these are the kind of things that we need to bring up and say, whoever had the eye for that did a really good job of identifying it and keeping the costs lower for taxpayers. So Mike, thank you, and Mr. Brady, thank you and whoever the staffer was. Nice job. Well done.
We'll pass it on. Thank you.
That's all I have to say on that.
Okay, anything else? If not, I have a question on 5A. So I'm concerned about the lofts at 121, 3 acres. And I guess primarily, about 2.5 years ago, I think Ms. Spilsbury in District 2 had a similar situation about architectural design, integration of the neighborhood, arterial streets, surface streets, and putting 68 townhomes on 3 acres inside to me, a historic neighborhood. It doesn't have the historic designation, but it's been there since the creation of Mesa quite a few years ago. And I just thought architecturally, as I looked at it, didn't really match the character of the neighborhood. And I just wondered how that process worked and how things came about.
Yeah.
Evan and Mary?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So this project we've gone through a number of iterations with the applicant. We've worked with them to get to the point that we have with this project. It had went to design review board last month. The applicant received a number of comments related to the building design, integration with the neighborhood, landscaping. The applicant has made several changes to maybe better protect the neighbors to the north by increasing that landscape buffer and additional landscaping there. There are still outstanding comments that the applicant would need to work through regarding the building design itself. As I mentioned, they got a number of comments from the design review board related to the design, particularly the garage facing side. These are alley loaded, so the garages are a prominent feature of this. They got some comments related to enhancing that design specifically. So there are still a number of design related issues for the applicant to work through.
Well, okay, design, but then integration in the neighborhood, the character of the buildings. I mean, I remember when Ms. Spilsbury had a difficult zoning situation some years ago that I think you probably worked on it as well, but we had to change the design to Suburban Ranch to match the character of the neighborhood. At least that was the outcome of that. I don't know if Ms. Spilsbury has some comments on that, but
Yeah, I mean, that was the neighbor's request, so I'm just curious what community outreach has happened on this and what the neighbors are saying.
Oh, thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Spilsbury. That's a good question. So there has been some pretty extensive outreach on this. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting, and they got a handful of residents attended that meeting. We had residents at both the Design Review Board meeting and the Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Interestingly, their comments weren't so much with the building design as the number of units on the lot and how that kind of impacts some other aspects of the design, like interior landscaping, traffic, those sorts of things. So we didn't hear a lot of concerns about the building design itself. It was more bigger picture issues, primarily related to density.
what was is this the maximum density for this type of parcel?
Mayor, the applicant is requesting RM4 zoning. The maximum density under that zoning is 30 dwelling units per acre. This one is just over 22.
Okay. Well, when I looked at the pictures here they're just kind of computer generated. I mean, I don't really see something that really matches exactly what they're going to build there. And then some of my thoughts was, with this being one of the oldest neighborhoods, how do we blend the character of these infill developments? I think this is things that we're going to struggle with in the future in our city, is how do we blend and collaborate our neighborhoods architecturally, the design, Suburban Ranch versus look like a contemporary design here. What are your thoughts on that? Go ahead.
You start. So, I mean, this property is located off of Main Street in the 2040 general plan, which is how we reviewed this based on when the application was submitted. It's in a transit station area, so generally you would expect more density in those areas, but that's a good point about how do we transition maybe, and I think what we focus on are maybe landscape buffers buffering between the projects. I don't know that it's necessarily the architecture needs to be the same as your next door neighbor, but there should be a transition so that if you have a different architectural design, it's maybe not 5 or 10 feet from your neighbor's property. There should be increased buffering that kind of separates those two uses.
And Mayor Freeman, Council, that kind of lends into that discussion about the density because of the density, even though it meets the requirements of this RM4 district, that density tends to restrict maybe some of those buffers that we're able to see here. We have worked with the applicant, as Evan said, we're generally meeting the requirements of the code and the design guidelines. But there are some things that if City Council wanted, we could go back, we could continue to work with the applicant on this project.
Well, I'm thinking that, with Ms. Spilsbury's thing that happened a couple of years ago, that was an organized neighborhood. I mean, they were organized, they met with her, and kudos to her, she worked out a difficult situation. Where I don't think this neighborhood is as organized and is smaller in footprint because there's some multifamily, and then to the south you have Main Street and the light rail. But then as you go further to the north and a little bit to the east, you have a long-established neighborhood, mature trees, flood irrigation, all the components that we characterize as a historic neighborhood, but not having the historic designation. So that's where I'm just really not comfortable with this much density on the property and the architectural design personally. I think that Mr. Boyle could do something better like he did with your zoning case. I mean, to integrate, because it could be done. It's just that I'm thinking as I drive down Beverly, just a 2-lane street with 68 townhomes, and if you don't have an organized neighborhood to kind of push back on the zoning case, then consequently it would go through.
Can I ask a few questions on
Yes,
that?
yes, ma'am.
I was just flipping through the site renderings, and 23, I mean, you'd think that was a storage facility. And I get that it's not showing landscaping and stuff on that one, I know they're putting quite a bit of landscaping up on the north side against the homes, but like, I wouldn't want that in my neighborhood. I'm just looking at this. What is it parked at? You know, I was gonna ask that since these are garages.
I'm going to let Evan answer that
I was
question.
looking
Councilmember
through
Spilsbury.
the slides and I just didn't see that jump out at me, so.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Spilsbury. So as this is RM4 and it's multifamily development, their requirement is 2.1. I can get you that specific number. They're not asking to decrease the amount of parking on the site plan.
So it's 2.1 though with the garages, so that's always my, does Rachel maybe have?
Yes. So Mayor, Councilmember Spilsbury, so they are parked, they are meeting the requirement of 2.1 spaces per unit. So that's 143 spaces, but they're actually providing 157.
So it looks like maybe on the middle section are where they have some open visitor parking?
That's correct.
Are these one-car garages or two-car garages?
2-car.
Or two-car garages. So I mean, again, back to my argument that I've made a lot, but when you have two parking spaces per unit in a garage, they're not open to anyone else. So that's, I always worry about the impact on the neighborhoods with, when there's not enough visitor parking. I know we're not on like a main street here, so it's very likely it would go into the neighborhood potentially. But I have some of the same concerns Mayor Freeman does, just because, I don't know, I guess that's, if a neighborhood isn't organized to push back, they won't, and it goes through, and then they suffer the consequences of it. And I don't know what role, you know, city council, I mean, obviously on the design elements, that's very subjective, something we don't like, other people would like. So, yeah, I think this feels like a lot shoved into one small area in that neighborhood.
And Mayor Freeman, Councilmember Spilsbury, I think the Design Review Board agreed as it related to the design of the buildings and what they looked like and the impact on the neighborhood, which is why we're working with the applicant, because there were probably some of the most concerns we'd heard from the DRB on a project in a very long time in terms of the design. So we are working with the applicant on that.
But I guess, Mary and Evan, you know, you can change design, but maybe the real issue here is density. I
That's
mean,
correct.
yeah, I'm not trying to defend the design, but I think you gotta, first you have to deal with this density issue, right? I mean, and it's hard to have good design if you're just cramming everything in.
Well, and obviously they're trying to squeeze as much as they can out and make it pencil, and sometimes
Right.
you have to have a certain number of units. I mean, I get it, but.
Right, and
we don't-
I think Councilmember Spilsbury said something really important that I think kind of perked my thoughts is, you know, maybe this is our role, is when you don't have, you know, you look at the neighborhood, surrounding neighborhood, it's quite a variety, right? You don't have this homogeneous kind of looking neighborhood where you could probably get a little more organized.
Like the one where I was.
Yeah, and so, but I do think that's the role, right, of council, is to represent the individuals in that neighborhood who may not understand or what possibilities they could be involved in. This is for introduction. I think they're asking for our
RM4,
RM4. It's, what is it today?
RS6, single family.
So it's quite a change, right? I mean, so maybe what staff we could do is, again, this is introduction. Sounds like council has some concerns. We could help prepare maybe just some speaking notes, some thoughts. Obviously, you could have your own. And so that on Monday, this would be an opportunity for council to convey those concerns to the developer and ask for them to keep working with issues related to density, design, you know, just work on those and come back with.
I think it would be important also to hear Councilmember Duff's thoughts, since this is her district,
Fair
so
enough.
she would know the neighborhood better. And since she's not here this morning, I would like to hear what she
Okay,
also
so
has to say.
it's introduction, so we have that opportunity to, I don't know, I'm just trying to come up with some options for.
Well, yeah, I agree. I'm not against infill development. It just has to be the appropriate fit for the neighborhoods, and that's where I'm at.
Yep.
And, you know, again, Miss Spilsbury's zoning case, she was on arterial streets, you know, Southern and 32nd Street. The density kind of fit a little bit, but yet it was reduced. The parking was an issue. That was all massaged out. This one here is totally different, where, again, the density, I think, is way too high, in my opinion. A 2-lane street on Beverly, great access to the light rail, I get that. But it just seems to me it needs to be worked out a little bit more than putting two-story, I guess they're townhomes here, in there, 68 of them, just diffuses the whole concept of having our character of our neighborhoods and the density. So, yeah, I think that we should, and then the discussion could be, do we introduce this at all and allow you to work that out with the applicant?
I think also one of the arguments or justifications is that that's a park that's on the south of it, so maybe that's why you justify higher density right there. But I mean, there is neighborhood right to the north of it, so.
And one of the other things, you know, working with Mary and Evan, I like open space. I like places where if you're doing an infill development, people can go, and there's one pool for 68 townhomes. There's a small dog park. There's a small this. It doesn't really open it up, you know, for just people to go to. I mean, you're going to go to a small area. I think we need, people like to have more open space and they feel like they're integrated into the neighborhood. And so I think there's some work to be done here. Mr. Adams, I don't know if you want to weigh in at all.
Just a brief comment or two. I echo everything that my colleagues on council have already said about this project. I think it's a square peg in a round hole, frankly, as it presently exists. I understand that we are going to be facing these infill projects more and more, and I believe they need to fit the character of the neighborhood. It's a difficult task trying to, as Councilmember Spilsbury said, for a developer to make a project pencil in a isolated infill project. So I understand the challenges that the developers face here, but this is a little bit too over the line for me as it presently exists, and so I'd like to see further discussion and maybe not have it move forward right now until that's happened.
In all fairness, we need to have Ms. Duff here, Councilmember Duff.
So we can do that on
have-
Monday afternoon.
Yeah, okay. That's my comments. Anything else?
Real quick, has the applicant mentioned, is this for sale or rental townhomes?
Mayor, Councilmember Heredia, it's for rent.
For rent, okay.
Oh, my, okay. Well, anything else, council?
I'll leave it off consent.
Yeah, so I'm going to suggest we take it off consent for Monday's meeting, so. All right, nothing
So,
else?
sorry, so to clarify, we're assuming Councilmember Duff will be here and we'll talk about it on the Monday study
Right.
session is what
Yes.
you're saying.
But at a minimum, it sounds like it's off consent.
Okay.
But it'll still be there for her to have an opportunity
Yeah.
to visit about it on Monday also.
Okay, and the other option would just be that we continue
Just to
even
continue.
the introduction?
Good?
Okay.
We can do that Monday.
Yeah.
I like that.
All right, nothing else on the agenda? Thank you. Planning Department. Okay, item 2 is to acknowledge receipts of minutes from,
So moved.
all right. Vice Mayor and Ms. Spilsbury, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. That passes. And then we're going to go over to current events and conferences attended. Council members, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Go ahead, you can't call me.
He's greatest of all time.
Oh, crying out loud. There we go. I had a show and tell. Is staff ready to pull it up and behind me? There we go. So on Saturday, this past Thursday, actually, we'll back up to there. We all signed the beam. This is the top-off beam for the Gateway Library. We brought that out, staff brought it out on Saturday, made a little tour of the other libraries, and ended up in the Eastmark community at one of the farmers markets where the community was allowed to show up. I wish I had gotten the numbers, but there were over 400 people that showed up just to come and sign the beam on Saturday. And there it is, hanging up. Thank you to Eastmark for sending the picture, but there it is hanging up in the library. So it will be there in perpetuity, covered, and you will not be able to see it once it's done, but you'll know that your name, if you had the opportunity to sign it, that it's going to be up there. So thank you to staff who and everybody who brought it out, and our construction contractor as well, who opened it up so you could see the site, and people are getting very excited. It's very cool.
That's it?
I'll let you do the rest.
You did more than that.
Yeah.
Ms. Spilsbury.
I attended with several of you the Mesa Public Schools Foundation annual dinner, and we love going and supporting our Mesa Public Schools Foundation and all of the great work they're doing for our students in our city. And got to honor Jim Zaharis, who started the foundation and was Mesa Public Schools superintendent for several years. It was the 40th year anniversary of the Mesa Public Schools Foundation. We'll let Mayor Freeman talk about the firefighter memorial. And then on Tuesday, I participated in a discussion group with community members around Mesa Public Schools master plan for their future and their facilities, and ways that we can partner with different organizations, nonprofits, lots of different ways to kind of repurpose some of the areas of the schools. I wanted to make everyone aware, if they didn't know it, this was facilitated through the city, but for Mesa Public Schools, Bezos Academy came in and took over parts of 3 different campuses for free preschool and daycare for anyone that is in need of that. It's a really incredible program and something good that's happening, and the way we can partner with the schools and use those facilities for purposes when our enrollment has gone down and some of our campuses have some empty areas. So anyways, it was an interesting conversation and a lot of great potential for different partnerships moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy.
Yeah, just a quick shout out to the engineering department, Beth. They do a engineering week at Chrisman Elementary in West Mesa for, I think, 15 years now, right? So just thank you, really neat. They build bridges and learn about trusses and all things engineering at Chrisman. So thank you. And they finish it off with a testing of bridges. So really neat activity that they've done there for the last 15 years at Chrisman. Also, just a reminder, this Saturday we have badges and bobbers at Dobson Ranch Park from 8:30 to 11:30, where you will be able to fish at Dobson Ranch Park with police and fire this time. Normally it's been with just police, but also the fire folks joined on this event. So 8:30 to 11:30, come bring your children, and you can fish and hopefully catch some fishes at Dobson Ranch Park. Also, just we have spring training starting tomorrow and this weekend, right? So always great to see all the fans come into Mesa at the Cubs Stadium and the A's Stadium. So really looking forward to spring training this month and all the visitors here in Mesa. So.
Ms. Spilsbury.
I have one more thing that I was reminded of, that I know we mentioned when Phil Austin passed, but his memorial service was this last weekend, and I was able to attend that. Councilmember Duff was there too, and just wanted to acknowledge again his incredible influence in our Mesa community. He is the one who started the East Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and his work towards our community for decades really has had just an incredible impact on our community, and we're so grateful for him and his life and his service, and it was a really beautiful event.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Anything to report?
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you. Yes, I just want to acknowledge the city staff who've been meeting with me over the last 3 to 4 weeks and orienting me and bringing me up to speed on various city departments, and that continues. Have a number of things on the calendar in the next couple of weeks that I'm looking forward to. And I'm glad Councilmember Spilsbury mentioned Phil Austin's memorial service. I'd known Phil for about 30 years through a totally different connection when I first met him, and always appreciated his commitment to Mesa. He had a great historical perspective, having grown up here, and I would just like to say he will be missed. So that's all I have to report for now.
Thank you. Well, that leaves myself, but, District 3 has 2 lakes, the Dobson Ranch Lake and Riverview. You could do cops and bobbers all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah, I think,
Just did it at Riverview, so.
yes, you did. I think Miss Spilsbury might be a little jealous of
I
that.
have one at Greenfield Park that we would love to host, so.
Okay,
Just
there we
putting it
go.
out there.
I think we have like 3 lakes in Mesa that do fishing. Is
Oh,
that
yeah,
right?
Red Mountain, Greenfield, Dobson, Riverview, so at least 4, yeah.
Okay,
East Mark,
Okay.
5.
okay. With that, I was able to attend a lot of the functions mentioned. Mesa Morning Live, they had me on there. I did that Friday. I did attend the Mesa Contemporary Art Spring opening. That was quite the opportunity down at the Brown area there at Mesa Art Center. It's great seeing the art there. Mr. Austin, yes, I attended that as well, and I've always been impressed by Phil and what he's been able to do. We attended the annual Fallen Firefighter Memorial. I don't know if Chief Camelli's still here, if she's out in the waiting area. If she'd like to come in and say anything, maybe she's gone to work, but here she comes. I love it. We could just call people, they just magically appear.
Not supposed to work.
Chief, tell us about your memorial and what it means to the department.
Mayor Freeman, members of the council, thank you so much for this opportunity. I am so grateful for those that showed up for this ceremony to honor our fallen brothers and sister. We had a great turnout. It means so much to the families who were there to know that their loved one is never forgotten, but the memorial wall looks absolutely beautiful. And I thank you, and I thank members of the committee that really helped put that memorial wall together. And even the bronze plaque that came in just in time meant a lot. The families couldn't say enough about how grateful they are to have this wall in honor of their loved ones. So it was a very important day for us. We appreciate the support, and the wall is going to mean a lot for our city, too.
And you added 2 other additional members to the wall. I'll use the wall word.
Correct. 3. We added Captain Ron Bird, Chuck Inman, firefighter Chuck Inman, and then Captain Pat Brown were all added to the wall this year. They all died of cancer, presumptive cancer, in retirement.
Thank you. I know as yourself and myself, we worked with many of those, and so seeing them all there, it's significant. It's special to me, so appreciate your support. So we're going to do this annually, President's Day next year, 2026?
That's correct. Yes.
Great.
We'll do it each year.
And kudos to the Honor Guard, I mean, our pipes and drums, all those police and fire participating.
For sure.
It's just-
And I'd say our honor guard are second to none in the country. We've heard honor guards across the country, and our honor guard is amazing. They do a wonderful job for us.
As was mentioned, I think Captain Inman requested that when he died, that an honor guard would be created in his behalf, and so it's been there ever since.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Vice Mayor, where's your Cubs hat? You didn't put it out here?
I have it.
We'll put it up here. I think we have Cubs represented. Just want to recognize them here in the audience. And
I don't have an A's hat.
Whoa.
so just
It's a little old. It's a little old.
Vintage.
Vintage.
to Councilmember Heredia's point, spring training's starting up here, so we look forward to participating in both the A's and the Cubs. It's quite a fun time. So everybody come out and enjoy spring training in Mesa, Arizona. Don't go to Surprise or Phoenix or anything like that. Mesa has it. So with that, Mr. Brady, can you, oh wait, I have another thing. I attended the Mayor's Youth Committee. We did a photo op on the roof of the city building here yesterday evening, and the youth are really impressed by Mesa and being able to point out all the landmarks in the community, and they got to realize how large Mesa is. So Mr. Brady, can you share any scheduled future meetings?
Sure,
and
thank you.
hopes?
You know, what's amazing is spring training, both our teams that play here in Mesa, they're both in first place now. At least for now. At least for now. Tied for first. Let's just keep it that way. All right. The next meeting of council will be Monday, the 24th. We would like to suggest to council, we did receive an application for city manager, as you requested. We did an internal, open it up internally, so we have the application. What we would suggest, just based on council schedules and who's available, or when making sure everybody's available, Monday seems to be the best day, to do that. So what we would propose is that council we would provide the resume for the council this weekend, and then you would have the opportunity to visit in an interview with the city manager candidate on Monday prior to the council meeting. So we're anticipating, these are just you all telling me feedback. So we could anticipate a 45-minute interview with the council. That would mean we'd have a start time for council at 4:45 or 4:30 on Monday. They give you 45 minutes or so to meet with the candidate, along with the review of the agenda. But that seemed to go pretty quickly today. So that would be the anticipation for Monday, if that's okay with council.
I believe
Council,
we
your
have
pleasure.
our CCD meeting at 4. We could see if we can move it earlier.
Oh, you're meeting at 4. Well, if we start at 4:45, will they give you enough time?
We have some heavy stuff to discuss, so we keep having to have more meetings, so I don't know.
What time's your meeting start at?
4.
Would it be?
None of our district coordinators, or some of them are here. I don't
go
know.
earlier?
I'm not sure.
And Thursday's a train wreck.
Yeah, I know. I think I could meet a half hour earlier, but I don't know about the other two.
Okay,
so.
well, then we just push it back a week. The interview is that would be the other option then.
I mean, I guess we just decide which one's more important, so.
I can, since I'm on your committee, we could shift some things and I can meet earlier.
I'm being told we're supposed to ask Andrew. And he's here, so let's leave it up to Andrew.
Well,
No
let's see.
pressure, no pressure.
Just stay tuned. We'll
Okay.
work it out, the schedule. So it looks like
Not to call you
now
out. or
everybody
anything.
knows how this whole place works is on Andrew's.
I know, totally.
Okay, so if we can move that meeting up, then we could start at 4:45. Okay. Anyway, just be aware that looking at your packets, we'll work on that today.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, even if we moved it up 15 minutes, so we at least had an hour and then got in here by 4:45, or, we'll figure it out.
Okay, all right, we'll do that. Okay,
I'd suggest at least an hour.
okay. So we'd have to start at
4:30
4:30 then, to give you 15 minutes to review the agenda. So,
Yeah.
It may take a little longer than 15 to
If we're
review
doing
the
this
agenda.
and this development too, so.
The zoning case, the
no, I know,
introduction.
I'm just looking at how much earlier this other meeting's getting started.
Why don't we just stay tuned? We'll
Okay,
work-
just
you
be
work it
aware
out.
and look at your, make sure you see those start times for Monday then. Okay.
Anything else, scheduled meetings?
I think that's good enough, thank you.
Okay, got it. Okay, with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Ms. Pillsbury? Thank you, Mr. Heredia. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We're adjourned. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day.